Hello and welcome back to the channel. Right, today I have for your build the Dicker Max by Wange. So, usual story, 60-second speed build. We'll show you some pictures and then we'll get into the review. Let's crack on and build. Right, welcome back. So, what do we think of this then? Well, this is in the same range as Wange's now Falsterberg's, the multi-turreted German tank that I did just before Christmas, and I do apologise to any Germans there or Austrians for absolutely butchering that name. And it shares a lot of the same characteristics as that particular model, but I will get into that in a little more detail in a minute. In the meantime, we'll do the usual thing. The instructions, generally they're pretty good, and I do like that they have got a product or brick list at the back. That can be very useful, and I did find it useful with this one. Now, generally they're pretty good. However, there are one or two areas, particularly towards the end of the build, when they are not terribly helpful. So overall, they're an okay. The bricks fitted okay. There was nothing missing, no warpage, no discoloration. Now, as far as the fitting goes, this is probably not necessarily the bricks' fault, but the design's fault. And this is all to do with this whole fighting compartment up here. It's very fragile. Not too bad on the sides here, but it's all around the gun mounting that we have an issue. So I'm not going to say that that's the bricks' fault. I think that's more the design of how it's actually built. Now, this is very much a build of two halves, and I certainly wouldn't recommend a build like this to anybody who is a beginner or not particularly confident, or even somebody who has perhaps issues with their fingers and find very small work quite tricky, because you do need that. There's just no getting away from it. Now, as I said at the beginning, I did this on a stream, and the first hour I just flew through it, and I would have said I was probably 2/3 of the way through it, and then bang, you hit a wall. And that wall, as I say, is this fighting compartment. It's not too bad the first sort of levels with it, but it comes from trying to get the level of detail. I mean, they've got it's nice to see the detail, the bits and pieces, the actual breech of the gun and how far it comes back into the fighting compartment, the binoculars there, the sort of half canopy. But it is all these things that are causing the problem. It's just all so fragile. With most of these things, there's perhaps only one stud that they're catching hold of. These two bits here, to be honest with you, it's ridiculous, because you're asking the stud to catch on right in the very corner where there's almost nothing to grab hold of. So unsurprisingly, they come off, well, when you look at them, in a funny manner. One other thing I did notice with this, and this will frustrate, I'm sure, a lot of people, is obviously you tend to have a bit of a line down there with the gun that sort of goes back with binoculars, and you've got a thingy there, so you've got a sort of spine line where you would take eyeball the way that the symmetry is looking. And one thing I really struggled to do is to get this symmetry where, for instance, this panel, you can probably see is ever slightly wonky, and it's one panel will put everything else out, and because it's so fragile, trying to get one panel in and straight, you can do it. Then you put another panel in and you get that straight, and then you get the third panel in and you knock the first panel, which knocks the second panel and puts everything else off. You go to try and square them up and they'll pop off, and then you've almost got to undo it and start again, and so it can be very, very frustrating. So literally from probably here upwards took me as long as the whole of the rest of the tanks, including putting the tracks together. It's that finicky and it's that delicate, so yes, I certainly wouldn't recommend this to anybody who's just beginning this hobby. It will be frustrating, and I would imagine that a few people would end up throwing this across the ring. I certainly considered it, I have to say. But the level of detail on the model is pretty good, and it is nice to see this sort of thing going on, because obviously with a lot of tanks, yes, you may have the engine, you've got the driver's compartment and some shells and things like that when you lift off the turret, but actually inside the turret you've got pretty much nothing. The gun is just attached to the front, so it's quite nice to see that little bit extra detail. And once again, the same with the multi-turreted German tank that I can't pronounce. It's nice to see Wange doing some more obscure models. I mean, the Dickermax, while this is certainly more famous than the other German tank there, partly due to it being a premium in World of Tanks, there was actually only 2 of these made, so it's even more obscure than that one, because only 5 of them were made and one of them was wooden. So yeah, well done to Wange for that. But I think they need to have a bit of a rethink on how this is built. I'm not convinced that this is, while it does give the right look to the tank, I'm really not convinced this is the best way of doing it though. So this was £12.60, which is slightly cheaper than the other tank there. I think if you are an experienced modeler or builder for these types of things, and you are very confident in your skill, this is a really good buy of a tank that most people certainly won't have. At £12.60, I think you could certainly make this look very good, and particularly if you're one of those builders who plans on keeping their build, and so therefore when you have some of these more fragile bits, you will end up gluing them in place. This would be great for you. For anybody else, I think this would be very, very frustrating, and you would probably wish you spent the £12.60 on something else. But that's really all I have to say about this. It's, as I say, it's nice to see something a little different. But yeah, don't try this unless you're very confident in your own abilities and your patience. So there we go. Well, hopefully you've liked this video. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you again. Take care. Bye bye.